In the last chapter, Jack stepped through the mysterious golden doorway, expecting another room. He instead found an endless hallway, stretching far beyond the darkness. Ancient lanterns glowed softly, while thousands of silent doors stood perfectly still, each one hiding a forgotten memory. But before Jack could take another step, a quiet whisper echoed through the empty hall. Someone has finally returned. Jack stood silently before the endless hallway. The golden doorway behind him slowly disappeared, until only darkness remained. There was no way back. Yet, strangely, he felt no fear. The gentle sound of rain echoed softly through the ancient hall, blending with the quiet crackle of distant fireplaces, hidden somewhere beyond the walls. The white fox walked a few slow steps ahead, then stopped, patiently waiting for Jack to follow. Every lantern hanging from the high stone ceiling glowed with a warm golden light, but none of them seemed to cast a shadow. It was as though this place existed outside of time itself. Jack looked around. Thousands of old wooden doors stretched endlessly into the distance. Some doors were covered with ivy. Some shimmered with tiny blue lights. Others looked untouched for centuries. Yet every single one carried a small bronze nameplate. Curiously, every name had disappeared. Only empty metal remained. Jack reached out, gently brushing one of the cold doors with his fingertips. At that very moment, the hallway released a soft whisper. Not one voice, but hundreds. Quiet, peaceful, almost like forgotten dreams, trying to remember their owners. The white fox slowly looked back. Its bright eyes met Jack's, as if silently reminding him, only those who listen may continue forward. Jack took another careful step. The whispering became clearer. Tiny golden particles floated gently through the air, drifting like sleeping fireflies. One by one, they gathered around a single ancient door. Unlike the others, this door carried no handle, only a beautifully carved symbol, a sleeping crescent moon, resting inside a golden key. Jack quietly stood before it. The hallway fell completely silent. Even the rain seemed to stop. Then, from somewhere beyond the ancient door, came the soft laughter of a little child. Jack stood motionless, watching the ancient door slowly open. Without a single sound, a warm golden light spilled gently into the endless hallway, carrying the comforting scent of rain, old parchment, and cedar wood. The white fox quietly stepped forward, then stopped at the doorway, as though waiting for Jack to make the next choice. Beyond the door was not another room, but an enormous library, unlike anything Jack had ever seen. Shelves stretched upward, disappearing into clouds of soft blue mist. Thousands of glowing books floated peacefully through the air, moving slowly, like drifting leaves in a gentle breeze. Every book carried a tiny golden thread, connecting it to the ceiling above. Jack whispered, "What is this place?" No one answered. Instead, one small book gently floated away from the others until it rested quietly before him. Its cover was deep blue, decorated with tiny silver stars. Across the front, only 4 words appeared: Jack's first forgotten dream. His heart beat just a little faster. He couldn't remember ever writing such a book. Carefully, he reached toward it. The moment his fingers touched the cover, the entire library glowed softly. Around him, hundreds of floating books opened by themselves. Their pages turned slowly, filling the room with thousands of whispered voices. None of the whispers were frightening. They sounded peaceful, like distant memories, patiently waiting to be remembered. Suddenly, a calm voice echoed through the library. "Every dream forgotten by the world finds its way here." Jack looked around, but saw no one. The white fox lowered its head, almost as if it already knew who was speaking. The old librarian stood beneath the warm glow of the lantern. His long silver robe moved gently. Even though there was no wind, his eyes were calm, filled with kindness and countless forgotten stories. Jack took one careful step forward. "Who are you?" he whispered. The old man smiled softly, but said nothing instead. He slowly raised one hand and pointed toward the floating blue book. Jack looked down. The book had opened by itself. Its pages glowed with a gentle golden light. Slowly, moving images appeared across the paper. Jack watched quietly. He saw a young boy sitting beneath a great oak tree, reading stories while gentle rain fell around him. The boy smiled, dreaming of magical worlds where every forgotten wish could live forever. Jack felt something deep inside his heart. The memory felt strangely familiar, yet impossible to remember completely. The white fox sat quietly beside him, watching every page turn. The old librarian finally spoke, his voice soft as falling snow. Dreams are never truly lost. They simply wait for someone brave enough to remember them. Jack closed his eyes for a moment. The peaceful sound of rain echoed gently through the endless library. Every floating book, every glowing lantern, every quiet whisper seemed alive then. The old librarian slowly reached into his robe. He removed a tiny golden key. It was shaped like a crescent moon, shining with a warm light. He placed it gently into Jack's hand. "You will need this," he whispered, "before the museum chooses its next secret." Jack held the small golden key carefully in his hand. It felt warm, almost alive, as if it remembered every person who had ever touched it. The silent librarian slowly turned and began walking deeper into the endless library without speaking. He invited Jack to follow. The white fox quietly walked beside him, its silver tail gently brushing against the ancient stone floor. The floating books slowly moved aside, Creating a peaceful path, at the end of the library stood an enormous spiral staircase. Each step was carved from smooth white marble, glowing softly beneath hundreds of tiny lanterns. Jack looked down. The staircase seemed endless, disappearing into a peaceful blue mist below. Together, they slowly descended, one quiet step at a time. The sound of rain faded. In its place came the gentle ticking of a very old clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Every heartbeat seemed to follow its rhythm. Finally, they reached the bottom. Before them stood the largest door Jack had ever seen. It was made of dark wood, bound with ancient golden vines, and covered in beautiful carvings of stars, moons, and sleeping birds. In its center rested a tiny crescent-shaped keyhole. The silent librarian looked at Jack and gave a gentle nod. Jack slowly raised the golden key. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from wonder. As the key touched the lock, the entire museum became silent. Every floating book stopped moving. Every lantern stood perfectly still. Even time itself seemed to pause. Jack slowly turned the key. Click. A warm golden light escaped through the edges of the ancient door, carrying the sweet scent of lavender, rain, and old dreams. The door began to open, very, very slowly. Ake stood quietly at the edge of the ancient doorway. Before him stretched the most beautiful garden he had ever seen. The night sky above shimmered with countless peaceful stars, while a gentle silver moon bathed every flower. In soft, glowing light, tiny streams flowed silently through the garden, their water sparkling like liquid crystal. Every tree carried leaves of deep emerald, touched with golden light. Delicate white flowers opened slowly, releasing a calming fragrance of lavender, jasmine, and fresh rain. The white fox stepped into the garden first. It walked slowly, without making a single sound, as if this magical place had always been its home. Jack followed quietly with every step. He felt lighter, calmer, as though every worry slowly faded into the cool night air. Gentle fireflies floated around him, dancing above the flowers like tiny stars. In the distance, he noticed an enormous ancient tree. Its branches reached high into the endless sky, carrying thousands of glowing golden leaves. Beneath the tree stood a single wooden bench. Sitting there was an elderly woman, wrapped in a soft blue cloak. Her eyes were closed, and a peaceful smile rested upon her face. She seemed to be listening, not to the wind, but to the dreams flowing gently through the garden. Without opening her eyes, she spoke softly. "Welcome, Jack. The garden has been waiting for the keeper of the crescent key." Jack stopped in surprise. He had never seen her before, yet somehow she already knew his name. The white fox quietly sat beside the old woman, lowering its head with great respect. The old woman slowly opened her eyes. They reflected the stars above, calm, gentle, and filled with ancient wisdom. She smiled warmly. Every dream that blooms here belongs to someone who once believed in hope. But one dream is beginning to fade. Jack stood quietly before the fading golden flower. Its petals shimmered softly, yet with every gentle breeze, a little more of its warm light disappeared. The peaceful garden remained silent. Even the tiny fireflies circled the flower, as though trying to protect its fading glow. The elderly guardian slowly approached. She placed one gentle hand upon the ancient tree and smiled softly. Every flower in this garden holds a single forgotten dream. Jack looked once more at the fading blossom. Whose dream is this? The guardian closed her eyes. No one remembers anymore. That is why its light grows weaker. The white fox quietly walked to the flower and rested beside it for a brief moment. The flower glowed a little brighter. Jack noticed the golden crescent key becoming warm in his hand. Tiny threads of golden light slowly flowed from the key toward the flower, but they were not enough. The guardian whispered, "A key may open a door, but only kindness can awaken a forgotten dream." Jack knelt beside the flower. He closed his eyes, listening to the gentle rain, the quiet wind, and the peaceful heartbeat of the garden. Without thinking, he placed both hands around the fading blossom. A soft warmth spread through the air. The golden light returned, first to one petal, then another, until the flower shone brighter than before. Across the garden, hundreds of sleeping flowers slowly opened. Their fragrance filled the night, and tiny stars seemed to drift down from the sky. The guardian smiled. "The museum has accepted your heart, but your journey has only just begun." Jack stood silently before the ancient tree. The hidden doorway glowed with a soft blue light, as though it had been waiting for centuries. The white fox stepped forward first. Pausing beside the entrance, it looked back at Jack, its bright silver eyes calm, inviting him to continue. Jack took a slow breath and gently placed his hand upon the glowing door. The wood felt warm, almost like a heartbeat without a sound. The doorway slowly opened. Beyond it was a circular chamber carved into the heart of the ancient tree. Countless tiny lights floated peacefully through the air, like stars resting inside the trunk. At the center of the room stood a crystal pedestal. Resting upon it was a beautiful silver hourglass. Instead of sand, tiny golden stars slowly drifted from the upper glass into the lower one. Every falling star released a gentle chime, filling the chamber with peaceful music. Jack walked closer. The golden crescent key, hanging from his hand, began to glow brighter. Suddenly, the hourglass responded. A thin beam of golden light connected the key to the crystal pedestal. Soft whispers filled the chamber. They were not frightening. They sounded like peaceful voices, telling bedtime stories. From long ago, the white fox quietly lay beside the pedestal. watching in silence. Then, from within the glowing light, appeared the gentle spirit of a young girl. She smiled kindly at Jack. "Thank you," she whispered, "because you saved the fading flower. Another forgotten dream has awakened." She slowly pointed toward the silver hourglass. "But when the final star falls, the keeper of shadows will awaken once again." The ancient bell echoed only once. Then silence returned. Jack remained still, holding the golden crescent key close to his heart. The white fox slowly walked toward the far side of the chamber, where another hidden passage had quietly appeared. Unlike the warm golden light of the garden, this passage shimmered with soft, silver moonlight. The air felt cool, peaceful, and filled with the gentle scent of pine trees. After rain, Jack followed slowly. Every step echoed softly, as though the museum itself was listening. At the end of the passage stood a quiet, underground lake. Its water was perfectly still, reflecting thousands of stars, even though no sky could be seen above. In the center of the lake rested a tiny stone island. Upon the island stood a single figure, wrapped in a long, dark cloak. The figure did not move. It simply watched the peaceful water. Jack felt no fear. Instead, he felt an unexpected sadness. The elderly guardian's words returned to his mind. "Not every shadow is born from darkness. Some are born from forgotten loneliness." The white fox quietly sat beside the lake, lowering its head with respect. The cloaked figure slowly turned. Beneath the hood, there was no frightening face, only two gentle silver eyes, glowing softly, like moonlight upon calm water. The figure spoke, its voice slow and peaceful. "I am the keeper of shadows. I do not steal dreams. I simply protect the ones that the world has forgotten." Jack listened quietly. The golden crescent key began to glow, filling the cave with warm golden light. The keeper smiled gently. "You have come farther than anyone in many years, but one final path still remains." Jack stepped onto the bridge of golden light. Each step felt weightless, as though he were walking through a peaceful dream below him. The quiet lake reflected countless stars, while the soft sound of rain echoed somewhere beyond the crystal walls. The white fox walked calmly ahead, never looking back, as if it already knew what waited inside the palace. Slowly, the magnificent crystal palace grew larger. Every tower shimmered beneath the moonlight, glowing with gentle shades of gold, silver, and deep blue. At the entrance, two enormous crystal doors quietly opened. Without anyone touching them, Jack entered. Inside, the palace was silent. No footsteps echoed, no wind moved. Only thousands of tiny floating lights drifted peacefully through the endless halls at the very center. stood a circular chamber. In its middle rested an enormous crystal sphere. Inside the sphere, countless dreams floated like tiny stars. Some shone brightly, others had become only faint sparks. Jack slowly approached. As he placed his hand upon the crystal, the sphere awakened. One dream after another appeared around him. Children laughing beneath summer skies, families sitting beside warm fireplaces, travelers watching peaceful sunsets, friends sharing quiet stories beneath the rain. Every dream was filled with hope. Then, the crystal slowly revealed one final vision. A young boy sitting alone beneath an ancient oak tree, holding a small blue book. The white fox quietly sat beside him. The boy smiled and slowly looked toward Jack. Jack's heart became still. The boy's face was his own. The Keeper of Shadows appeared quietly beside him. He spoke in a calm voice. "This was your very first dream. Long before you found the museum found you." Jack stood quietly beneath the doorway of golden light. The golden crescent key floated gently before him, shining brighter than it ever had before. Around him, the palace of the first dream glowed peacefully, while countless tiny stars drifted through the silent air. The white fox waited beside him, calm, patient, as though this moment had always been part of the journey. Slowly, Jack reached out and took hold of the floating key. The instant his fingers touched it, the great golden door slowly opened. Beyond the doorway, there was no palace, no library, no endless hallway. Instead, there was a quiet sea of stars, stretching beyond imagination. Floating islands drifted peacefully through the endless sky, connected by bridges of soft golden light. At the center of everything stood a magnificent throne, carved from crystal, moonlight, and ancient dreams. Jack walked forward slowly. Every step felt lighter, as though the dreams themselves were carrying him. Then, a familiar voice softly echoed through the endless sky. "You have remembered what many forget." Jack turned. The silent librarian, the elder guardian, and the Keeper of Shadows all stood together. They smiled warmly. The Keeper of Shadows spoke first. "The museum never searched for a hero. It searched for someone who would protect forgotten dreams." The elder guardian gently placed her hand over her heart. "Every dream saved gives hope to another soul." The silent librarian stepped forward. In his hands rested an ancient book, bound in deep blue leather, with golden pages that shimmered softly. He offered the book to Jack. Across its cover, beautiful silver letters slowly appeared. "The Book of Endless Dreams." Jack carefully accepted the book. As he opened the first page, the blank paper slowly filled with golden writing. It was writing itself, creating a new story. A story that had not yet happened. The white fox quietly rested beside Jack, watching the glowing pages turn, one by one. Then, the stars above the palace slowly formed a single sentence. Every ending is only the beginning of another dream. The museum became completely silent. The rain returned, soft, gentle, peaceful. Jack closed the ancient book, holding it close to his heart. He smiled. He knew his journey was far from over. As the lights of the palace slowly faded, one final page quietly turned by itself. Upon it, only 7 glowing words appeared. The Moon Library is waiting for its keeper. The golden crescent key shimmered once more. And somewhere, far beyond the museum, a silver moonlit library slowly opened its ancient doors. To be continued. Episode 5. The Moon Library.